Hello and welcome to Aviation This Week on Channels Television. I'm Bukola Joe Oketumbi. Redundancy for workers is the new order in Nigeria's aviation industry as the COVID-19 pandemic still impacts greatly on the workforce of this critical sector. Aviation union leaders, however, are appealing to the Ministry of Labour to be on top of its game in support of workers. Plus, Nigeria issues fresh restrictions asking citizens to once more embrace the COVID-19 rules of social distancing and mask wearing. This and more is what we have on this edition of the program. As usual, our background report on the continued impact of the pandemic on the country's aviation workforce is next.
The COVID-19 pandemic put the aviation industry in a crisis much deeper than those that followed both 9/11 and the global financial crisis. A long stretch of sustained growth was stopped in its tracks in 2020, and the next several years will be spent trying to get back to pre-COVID-19 levels. Even when vaccines have significantly slowed the spread of the virus, the economic downturn caused by the pandemic is expected to continue. In addition, it is estimated that about 300 million people worldwide lost their jobs as a result of this crisis. These job losses around the world are likely to have significant and long-lasting impacts on the global economy and demand for travel by plane. In November 2020, the International Air Transport Association predicted that for each day that the crisis continues, the potential for job losses and economic devastation grows. Unless government acts fast, some 1.3 million airline jobs are at risk, and that will have a domino effect, putting 3.5 million additional jobs in the aviation sector in jeopardy, along with a total of 46 million people in the broader economy whose jobs are supported by aviation. Moreover, the loss of aviation connectivity will have dramatic impact on global GDP, threatening $1.8 trillion in economic activity. Hundreds of airport workers held a demonstration in the Thai capital Bangkok last month to dispute changes to their contracts that they say strips them of basic labor rights and has led to forced resignations and arbitrary dismissals. The protest involved at least 200 workers for AOT Aviation Security, a joint venture between state-owned airports of Thailand and 3 security firms, with unions saying conditions had worsened during. IATA's prediction is already the case in Nigeria, as workers' union representatives say redundancy in the industry is now the order of the day.
Still in the regimes of furlough or leave without pay or leave with little pay. But the same airlines tell you that because of COVID, they cannot recall all their workers. Many workers are still at home. They tell you they cannot implement certain aspects of conditions of service. And they refuse generally to discuss these matters. But more importantly, these same organizations are declaring redundancies for their workers massively. And it's a situation we find difficult to understand.
He's also quick to add that the welfare of workers in the industry is not a priority.
But here there is no such social security scheme. So the money they are saving from those areas, they were using to pay our Nigerian workers because we do not have social security. Now, we canvassed heavily. We were in the front line for intervention in aviation. Now, government made that intervention. And salaries was definitely, statedly removed from where the money for intervention could be applied. Whatever happened to workers within the district, it is released to buy machines, to repair aircrafts, to pay contractors. but not payment of salaries. So we were hoping that the intervention could help clear these areas of salaries that have become like debris on the tarmacs on our runways. But it was completely and totally neglected.
Caught between a rock and a hard place, while IATA seeks to avoid massive employment terminations, practical analysis shows that maintaining 2019's level of labor productivity would require employment to be shaved by 40%. But an appeal also goes forth to employers in the private and public space to make life a bit easier for workers.
On our interview segment, a top official of the Air Transport Senior Staff Association of Nigeria is our guest. And he begins by doffing his cap for some foreign airlines, saying they've been fair to staff even in these dire times.
I want to believe it's better with the foreign. Why is it better with them? What is obtainable in their own environment is different from what we have here. There, though they are all capitalists, right? However, they still appreciate labor a little bit more than how labor is being appreciated here. And they believe that if there is a disconnection, it will affect their profit there. But here, in our own environment here, they believe everything goes. One of the reasons why we also believe that the only language our employers understand is a threat of strike. No labor, no union is always happy to jump a strike at the slightest provocation. And that is the reason why we always see the reason to engage. If you permit me to use Arik as an example. Arik, out of the unionized local airlines, was the most guilty of this when the COVID-19 broke out. They did so many things literally. However, when we made them to see reason for engagement, they approached it. We have been discussing. It was even during this COVID-19 that we concluded our conditions of service, despite the fact that what we ended up having seems to look like COVID-19 conditions of service. However, they said outbreak is better than none. Now, we are negotiating redundancy with them. And like I said, the redundancy that we are negotiating at this period is not what is near what we should even call redundancy. If you say you are negotiating redundancy for people at home, have you not even flouted the rules? One of the rules is that those you are negotiating for should not even know that they are going to be affected. But as it is now, the people at home, which this exercise is being conducted for, already know that they are going to be affected. But they are calling people in trickles. I will be happy if it is possible for them to recall everybody, because no union will be happy to lose a single member, not because of check-off deal. So if a staff has been trained and has taken up a profession in a certain field of life, the hope and aspiration of that worker is to progress in that career discipline. But if after spending maybe like 5 years, you just punctuate him or her, where is he or her going to start from? That is the challenge we are facing now with these local airlines. It is an appeal, especially to the Ministry of Labor. They should come alive to their responsibility. They should not only wait until things get scattered. They have responsibilities to the workers of this country. There are so many employers in our industry that do not encourage or even allow unionization of their workers. These workers are just left to be on their own. We are exposed. As workers, we are exposed. We are exposed. So we call on the Ministry of Labor to be, at least for once, on the side of the workers. We don't need all this incessant strike, shutdown in this industry. We believe in engagement with the employers, and we are always open to that. Even at the slightest call, we are always ready. It is going to be mutually beneficial for the employers who are after profits and for the labor who are after the interest of the workers. You know, in this marriage, one person determines, that is the employer. And the reason why workers come to the union is because they cannot negotiate individually. And that is what we have come to do. And we don't engage management based on sentiment of our workers alone. It is our interest for wherever we have members, that is the employers. It is in our interest for them to continue to prosper. It is in our interest as labor union. It is in the interest of the country.
Meet 7-year-old Graham Shama, the Ugandan boy who has become a sensation in his country with precocious display of aircraft knowledge and boarding flying skills. Shama loves math and science. The student has flown as a trainee 3 times on a Cessna 172. He wants to be a pilot and an astronaut and someday travel to Mars. One recent morning at Uganda's Entebbe International Airport, his instructor asked him to explain how the engines worked on a Bombardier CRJ 9000 plane parked on the tarmac.
The engine works like this. The inlet tube sucks in the air and it takes it to the compressor. The compressor squeezes it with the fans. After squeezing it with the fans, it becomes hot temperature. If it's hot temperature, it goes in the combustion chamber. The hot air mixes with fuel. If they mix with fuel, they make burn.
Shama's curiosity for flight was piqued by a freak incident. When he was 3 years old, a police helicopter flew so low to the ground that it blew off the roof of his grandmother's house on the outskirts of the Ugandan capital, Kampala, while he was playing outside.
So the industry here, it's not developed, you know it very well. And it's very hard to find a good simulator here. Guys, they use these TV simulators. So the aviation, really, it's expensive. And many people fear to go into aviation because every parent will know that aviation is it's an expensive thing to go to. So many kids end up going to other things instead of going to aviation schools.
After 5 months of coursework, he started practical lessons at the flying school. Flight instructor Simon Bruno says his passion for flight will inspire others.
Captain Shama, I see him as one of the exceptional pilots who is going to inspire the whole world, who is going to inspire the coming generation, the kids, and is going to inspire and challenge the status quo, the adults. So Captain Shama, he's passionate about flying. He likes about flying.
The pilot sits in the port side.
Welcome back. The Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos is working with the Port Health authorities to ensure that travelers not allowed in the country do not gain access. That's a news flash. Arriving passengers at the port of entry at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos. Port Health officials at work looking through documents as Nigeria bans travelers coming from India, Brazil and Turkey because of concerns about the rampant spread of the coronavirus in those countries. The airport authority says it's working hard to ensure that the airlines comply with the directive.
We work with Port Health, who has a primary responsibility of enforcing the protocols and any airline that brings in passengers from this area will be penalized, and we're working together with them to ensure that they don't bring in passengers from those countries. We ensure that all the protocols too, that's the COVID-19 protocol, has been followed. Social distancing, wearing of face masks, we ensure compliance, and we try as much as possible to make the airport friendly to travelers. But being that as it may, it has improved and is better than what we had last year, at least this period last year.
Away from the airport, the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 has also issued fresh restrictions.
We shall maintain restrictions on mass gatherings outside work settings with a maximum number of 50 people in any enclosed space. Approved gatherings must be held with physical distancing measures and other non-pharmaceutical interventions in place. Event centers, bars, nightclubs shall remain closed until further notice.
The authority of ECOWAS heads of state and government has fixed the cost of COVID-19 testing, whether PCR or any other form of testing, anti-agent testing, at $50 at all points of entry with effect from 17th May 2021. This is to ease travel and trade among citizens of ECOWAS states traveling within the region.
In line with increased risk of a surge in cases, the PSC is maintaining the enforcement of 2019 COVID-19 health regulation to mitigate the risk of a spike in new cases while the COVID-19 vaccination continues.
35 seniors living across South Florida flew from Fort Lauderdale to Newark and took a ride to the New Jersey's arena to see their close ones in person, first time in a long time for many. It's fantastic, says Florida resident Frances Critchett, who came to visit her daughter who resides in New York.
It's fantastic. It's a gift, really, especially for us mothers, to see our daughters who live here, and we're in South Florida. So to be able to come up here and just have this wonderful, get together is really just amazing.
Critchett is staying for a few days and plans to attend festivities organized by her daughter.
It's been really hard, really difficult. We love our families so much, and to not be able to be with them and hug them, it's been difficult to be away, but we're so excited to be able to share.
Eva Perez came from Florida with her husband George Perez to visit their daughter Christina, a Brooklyn resident, to spend some time together.
Most simple things of just cooking together or watching a movie together, those simple things, you realize how important those are.
David Chess and his son Adam came to MetLife Stadium to greet Robert, Stephen and Howard. Out of 4 Chess brothers, 3 live in Florida and 1 David in Massachusetts. For these brothers, in-person interactions can't be matched by a Zoom meeting.
And to see all these families reuniting is just a wonderful thing. I'm sitting here with my brother and his son, who I haven't seen again in probably at least a year and a half. And it brings us together. It's a beautiful thing.
It's been a long time, and it's since COVID.
We're tired of fighting on Zoom.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like you can't interrupt each other the same way.
We get in trouble on Zoom together.
It's just not the
same.
This
is better. We could be in the same stadium together.
Exactly.
Actor Neil Patrick Harris guided the experience at the MetLife Stadium that also included a lunch, live Broadway musical, and photo booths. The event was organized by the Claire app used in airport, now trying to make its inways into becoming a vaccine and COVID-19 test passport. In the desert just north of Las Vegas, a long white metal tube sits at the base of the mountains. It may look like a Vegas attraction, but it is the base of operations for Virgin Hyperloop, a magnetic levitation form of transport that Virgin hopes will revolutionize the way people travel. Virgin Hyperloop is a transport system which pushes a pod floating through magnetism down an almost air-free vacuum tunnel to its destination.
1, launch.
In November, the company successfully completed its first manned passenger ride with the company's CEO Josh Gergel and Director of Passenger Experience Sarah Lucian being the willing guinea pigs to be propelled down a 500-meter tunnel. Although a tight space, the pod is designed to feel bigger by using off-white materials and a black mirror. Gergel said that it was important to make the design approachable rather than comfortable to try and allay passengers' fears of using the device for the first time.
This is a new type of transportation system. So this pod was really the embodiment of like, how do we take something that is an idea and make it into something that's a reality for us to sit in, but also something that's inviting and can inspire where we're going from a 2-passenger pod to ultimately the 28-passenger pod and show that connection from our first prototype all the way to the commercial system that we're building today.
Virgin says riding the Hyperloop will be a smooth experience.
It'll feel like an aircraft at takeoff, and once you're at speed, you won't feel anything despite going at these, airline speeds. You won't even have turbulence because our system is basically completely able to react to all that turbulence. Think like noise canceling, but just bump canceling, if you will. And that means that you have a coffee, you have a drink, whatever, it won't spill, you won't have any kind of side-to-side motions because we can bank, we can turn like a plane. And it's going to be an environment and experience that really is unlike anything other than before, but far more comfortable than any of the other types of modes out there.
The 28-passenger pod will differ from the prototype at the Las Vegas site, not only in its size, but in the fact that it will use magnetic push from the top rather than from underneath the pod. In the future, Virgin Hyperloop could have an array of functions from fast, long and short distance travel to transportation of commercial goods. Virgin Hyperloop is already working on developing passenger routes in India, where the transport system is overloaded, and in Saudi Arabia, where there currently isn't the infrastructure.
The future of Hyperloop travel is real, and the moment is now.
The pod is about to be moved from the Nevada location to be displayed to the public at the Smithsonian Historic Arts and Industries Museum's Futures exhibition.
And that's it on this edition of the program. Thank you so much for staying with us. Let's not forget to keep safe always. I'm Bukola Joe Oketumbi. Bye for now.